barefoot over frozen ground that cuts like broken glass. The forest is black and endless, branches clawing at her hair, her skin, her pride. Snow lashes sideways in violent sheets, stinging her face, blinding her, soaking the thin fabric clinging to her body. Every breath scrapes her lungs raw. Every step leaves a smear of red behind her. Silver. They used silver. The wound on her thigh burns like fire under ice, blood dripping steadily down her leg, warm for only a second before the cold steals it. She can feel it slowing her, weakening her. And behind her, the howls. Not distant. Not fading. Closer. Those are not hungry wolves. Those are disciplined wolves. Pack wolves. Trained. Focused. Hunting her. Her heart slams so hard it feels like it might crack her ribs. Inside her chest, something else pushes back. Her wolf. Clawing. Scraping. Furious. Shift. The command is instinct. Survival. But she can't. If she shifts, they'll scent her properly. They'll know what she is. Not just a rogue. Not just a runaway. Something worse. Her bloodline is not supposed to exist anymore. She stumbles over a root and barely catches herself on a tree trunk. Pain explodes up her leg. She bites back a cry, tasting blood where her teeth cut into her tongue. Not now, please not now, she whispers, to her wolf, to the forest, to anyone who might be listening. The wind answers with another howl. They are almost on her. Then, light. Through the trees. Firelight. Voices. She breaks through the last line of branches and nearly collapses into a wide clearing carved into the heart of the forest. Torches circle the space like a ring of judgment. Dozens of wolves stand in human form, gathered for something important. A ceremony. A council. And at the center of it all, him. He stands still while everyone else shifts with curiosity. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Dark hair falling over a face carved with sharp lines and harder decisions. His presence is not loud. It doesn't need to be. Power radiates from him the way heat rises from fire. An alpha. Not just any alpha. The alpha of this territory. She doesn't know his name. Doesn't know his history. Doesn't know if he's merciful or cruel. She only knows she has seconds. Behind her, the hunters burst into the clearing, breath steaming, eyes bright with purpose. The pack in the clearing turns toward the commotion. Toward her. Toward the blood staining the snow at her feet. Everything slows. She could beg. She could run again. She could surrender. Instead, she runs straight for the alpha. It's reckless. It's desperate. It's the kind of choice made by someone who has already lost everything and refuses to lose one more thing. She crashes into him with the last of her strength. Her hands clutch the front of his coat. His scent hits her instantly, smoke, pine, iron, something dark and steady beneath it all. It almost breaks her. Her voice cracks, raw and shaking. "Help me," she says, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm your mate." Silence detonates across the clearing. The hunters freeze. The gathered pack stiffens. Even the wind seems to pause. She feels it the second he goes still. His hands come down on her arms. Not gentle. Not cruel. Firm. Unyielding. He pushes her back just enough to look at her face. His eyes. They flash gold. Not surprise. Not confusion. Recognition. The men who were chasing her step forward. Alpha, she's lying. She's a rogue. A low growl rips through the air before they can finish. It doesn't come from behind her. It comes from him. The sound is deep. Territorial. Dangerous enough that even the torches flicker, as if they felt it. His grip tightens. She can feel his wolf pressing against his skin, straining forward. She expects him to shove her away. To expose her lie. To hand her over and restore order to his gathering. Instead, he pulls her closer. So close she feels the heat of his body through the cold. His voice is not loud. But it carries. Mine. The word lands like a strike of thunder. Gasps ripple through the pack. The hunters take an involuntary step back. Her heart stutters. Because this was supposed to be a lie. A shield. A moment of borrowed safety. But the way he says it. It doesn't sound borrowed. It sounds claimed. His eyes drop briefly to the blood on her leg, then back to her face. Something unreadable moves behind his gaze. Not pity. Not doubt. Decision. He turns toward the wolves who chased her. You entered my territory without permission. His tone is calm. Too calm. She is under my protection. The forest holds its breath. And for the first time since she started running, she realizes something terrifying. The hunters aren't the most dangerous thing in this clearing. He is. If your heart just started racing, if you felt that shift in the air when he said mine, then you already know this isn't just a story about survival. Subscribe to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Because what began as a desperate lie in the snow is about to turn into something neither of them planned. And pretending. Pretending doesn't survive the night. The clearing does not breathe again until he does. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. Lira, he says, and her name sounds different in his mouth. Heavier. Intentional. Banished from the Ashmore pack. The blood drains from her face faster than the cold could ever manage. She never told him that. She never told anyone here anything. The hunters stiffen. A few of the gathered wolves exchange sharp glances. Information is currency in pack territories, and this alpha just proved he holds all of it. Lira's fingers curl into the fabric at his chest before she can stop herself. Not from affection. From shock. He knows who she is. Which means he knew exactly what he was claiming. The wolves who chased her recover enough to snarl. Alpha, she is unstable. Ashmore cast her out for a reason. His arm slides around her shoulders. Not tender. Protective. She is under my protection, he says, gaze steady, unblinking. Challenge me, and you challenge death. It is not a threat shouted in rage. It is a simple fact. No one moves. Not the hunters. Not the council wolves. Not even the restless younger males who look like they crave a fight. Because they believe him. Lira feels it then, the weight of his power pressing outward in invisible waves. Controlled. Leashed. But enormous. His wolf is not loud. It is certain. The hunters lower their eyes first. Submission. Her knees nearly give out from the shift in pressure alone. He bends slightly, enough that his mouth is near her ear. His breath is warm against her frozen skin. You chose the most dangerous alpha in this territory to lie to. There is no anger in his voice. That is what unsettles her. If he were furious, she would know how to respond. Apologize. Beg. Run again. But this calm curiosity laced with warning. It feels like standing at the edge of a cliff in the dark. His scent wraps around her fully now, smoke from the torches, iron from old battles, pine from the forest he commands. It sinks into her lungs. Her body reacts before her mind can argue. Her pulse changes. Her wolf, who has been frantic and defensive all night, goes suddenly quiet. Then, soft. A low whimper vibrates in her chest. Recognition. She fights it. Clamps down hard on the instinct trying to rise. This is survival, she reminds herself. Nothing more. But when his hand slides from her shoulder to the small of her back, guiding her forward, her skin burns where he touches her. He does not look down at her again, as he begins walking. He simply assumes she will follow. And she does. The pack parts for him instantly. Wolves bow their heads as he passes. Some look at her with open curiosity. Others with suspicion sharp enough to cut. She found him, someone whispers. He found her, another corrects. She smells wrong. That one lands like a slap. Lira keeps her chin up, though her leg throbs and her strength is thinning. She feels every stare. Every judgment. She has lived her life under that weight. She knows how to carry it. But this is different. Here, the whispers are not about a reckless girl who lost control. They are about a claimed mate. And mates change power. He leads her past the torches, past the circle of ceremony, deeper into the territory. The trees feel different here, denser, older. The air warmer somehow, shielded by something unseen. His domain. When they are far enough that the crowd noise fades into the background, he stops abruptly. She almost collides with his back. He turns slowly. Up close, he is worse. His face is all sharp lines and restrained violence. A thin scar cuts through one eyebrow. His jaw is tense, but not from anger. From thought. His golden eyes study her like she is a problem he intends to solve. You are bleeding, he says. It is not a question. She glances down at her leg, as if she had forgotten. The silver wound hisses faintly against the cold. I've had worse, she mutters. A flicker of something, approval, crosses his face before it disappears. He steps closer again. Too close. The air between them thickens. You have until sunrise, he says quietly, voice dropping lower. To explain why you claimed me in front of my entire pack. Claimed. The word presses against her ribs. If I don't, she asks, hating that her voice sounds smaller than she feels. His gaze does not soften. Then I will decide what you are to me. Her breath catches. Because that answer is layered. Protection. Punishment. Possession. She forces herself to meet his eyes fully. If this is the moment she loses everything again, she refuses to do it looking weak. I didn't have a choice, she says. There is always a choice. Not when they are using silver. That gets his attention. His eyes sharpen. Why were they hunting you with silver, Lira Vale? The way he says her name again, slow, deliberate, makes her skin tighten. Because he does not sound like a man dismissing a liar. He sounds like a man uncovering a secret. And for the first time since she burst into that clearing, fear shifts. Not fear of being handed over. Fear of being seen. If you love dangerous alphas who don't fall first, who protect before they trust, then stay with us. Subscribe to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Only the bold walk into the fire and keep listening. Fear of being seen. It sits heavier in her chest than the silver wound ever could. She holds his gaze for 3 long seconds, and in those seconds she understands something dangerous. This Alpha does not just hear lies. He weighs truths. Her throat tightens. I was born during a blood moon, she says finally, her voice low, steady only because she forces it to be. The words pull her backward. She remembers the sky that night, thick and red, like it had been cut open. The elders whispering outside the den. The way the air felt wrong, charged and electric. Her mother screaming through labor while the pack stood guard, as if something might come for the child instead of welcome it. When I shifted for the first time, she continues, her eyes unfocusing as memory floods in, it wasn't fur that came. She sees it again. The panic. The circle of wolves watching her first change. Every young wolf shifts awkwardly at first. Bones crack. Limbs lengthen. It's messy and sacred all at once. But when Lira shifted, silver fire burst from her skin. Not flames that burned her. Flames that became her. Her wolf formed inside that light, sleek and luminous, eyes white instead of gold. Silence had followed. Not awe. Not pride. Fear. The elders called it cursed, she says quietly. She remembers the way they refused to meet her gaze after that. The way mothers pulled their pups closer when she passed. The way training partners suddenly had excuses. My father called it a miracle. Her voice nearly breaks there. He was the only one who smiled when the flames flickered across her hands. The only one who told her power wasn't evil just because it was different. He died 2 winters later. After that, there was no one left willing to stand between her and suspicion. Your pack exiled you for shifting differently. Kael asks, but his tone is careful. Not mocking. Not dismissive. She shakes her head slowly. I lost control. The words taste like ash. It had been a training night. A challenge from one of the older males who never hid his resentment. He pushed too far. Mocked her father's memory. Told her she would burn the pack down one day. Something inside her snapped. The silver fire answered. It tore through her before she could leash it. Fast. Wild. Not targeted. When it died down, the sacred oak at the center of Ashmore territory, the tree their pack had gathered around for generations, was nothing but blackened skeleton. No wolves had died. But the symbol of their history had turned to smoke. They said it was a sign, she whispers. That I would destroy more than trees next time. She can still see the circle of elders. The way they avoided saying her name. The decree spoken without emotion. Exile before her 18th winter. No trial. No second chance. She lifts her chin now, back in the present, meeting Kael's eyes again. I didn't know where else to go, she says plainly. Your territory is neutral. No alliances. No old grudges. And claiming me, he asks. Her mouth tightens. That was survival. Honest. Brutal. Simple. If I ran through any other border, I would have been killed or dragged back in chains. If I begged, no one would have listened. Her jaw sets. But if I belonged to you, even for a night, they'd hesitate. She doesn't say what else drove her. The strange pull she felt the second she saw him. The way her wolf went quiet instead of defensive. That part terrifies her more than the silver ever did. Kael doesn't respond immediately. He studies her. Not with disgust. Not with pity. With calculation. His eyes move over her face like he's mapping it. Searching for cracks in the story. Searching for instability. Searching for threat. She forces herself not to look away. If he sees a monster, she will not beg him to change his mind. Silence stretches between them, thick but not hostile. Finally, he steps closer. Close enough that she can feel the heat from his body battling the cold that still clings to her skin. "You're not cursed," he says quietly. The words land softly, but they hit harder than any accusation ever has. "You're rare." Her heart fractures at the gentleness in that statement. Rare? Not broken. Not dangerous. Not a mistake. She feels something shift inside her chest, something fragile and long-buried pushing toward the surface. Hope. It terrifies her. "You don't know that," she says, but her voice has lost its edge. "I know power when I see it," he replies evenly. "And I know fear when I smell it. Your pack feared what they couldn't control." His gaze sharpens slightly. "That doesn't make you their enemy." No one has ever framed it that way. Not even her father. For the first time since she stepped into this territory, her shoulders loosen by a fraction. But fear lingers. Because if he believes she is powerful, he may also decide she is too dangerous to keep close. "If I stay," she says carefully, "your pack will question you." "They already are." "They question me every day," he answers without hesitation. "That is the cost of leading." His wolf brushes against hers then, an invisible presence, steady and immense. Not dominating. Not testing. Simply there. Her own wolf leans toward it before she can stop herself. Connection. Not forced. Not claimed by ritual. Something quieter. Something real. And that may be the most dangerous part of all. If you've ever felt too different to belong, if you've ever been told your fire was too much, then stay with this story. Subscribe to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Because here, the rejected don't disappear. They rise. They rise. And Kael does not waste time. He studies her for one more quiet second, then turns without warning. "Come with me." It is not a request. Lira hesitates only briefly before following. If he means to judge her, he will do it thoroughly. She would rather face it head-on than wait in uncertainty. They move deeper into his territory, away from the main settlement, past towering pines that seem older than memory. The air changes as they walk. Cooler, but not with cold. With something older. Something sacred. The forest grows quieter. No birds. No wind. Even the crunch of their footsteps sounds muted, swallowed by the earth. At last, the trees open into a circular grove carved from stone instead of soil. Massive slabs rise like broken teeth around a sunken basin at the center. The Moonwell Shrine. Lira feels it before she fully sees it. Power. Ancient and watchful. The stones are etched with runes worn smooth by centuries of weather and touch. Symbols twist across the surface in patterns she does not recognize, but somehow understands. Not with her mind. With her blood. The basin at the center holds still water, dark as glass. It reflects no sky. No trees. Only depth. Kael steps aside, giving her a clear path forward. He does not guide her this time. He lets her choose. Her pulse begins to race again, but not from fear of hunters. This is different. Quieter. More intimate. Like standing before something that already knows her name. She takes one step toward the water. It glows. Soft at first. A faint silver shimmer beneath the surface. She freezes. Kael does not speak. She takes another step. The glow intensifies. The air thickens, pressing against her lungs. Heat curls low in her abdomen, spreading outward in slow waves. Her wolf rises inside her, not in panic. In recognition. Her hand lifts without conscious thought. The moment her palm hovers over the water, pain sears through her skin. She gasps. It is not the bite of silver. It is something deeper. Hotter. As if her bones themselves are being rewritten. She looks down. Light blooms beneath her skin. Lines carve themselves into her flesh, glowing from within. A crescent forms first, sharp and perfect. Then flame curls around it, delicate but fierce, wrapping the moon in silver fire. A mark. Not burned onto her. Awakened. The water pulses in answer. Behind them, footsteps approach. Quiet but hurried. The pack seer, an older woman with clouded eyes that miss nothing, steps into the grove. She takes one look at Lira's glowing palm and inhales sharply. The one with the mark, she whispers. The words settle into the stones like they belong there. Lira's stomach drops. No, she breathes. No, that's not. The seer steps closer, reverent, trembling. We have not seen that symbol since before my grandmother's time. Kael moves then, stepping beside Lira, not touching her but close enough that she feels the steady presence of him. What does it mean? He asks, his voice controlled but tighter than before. The seer closes her eyes, as if reaching into memory older than her own life. There was a prophecy, she says slowly. Passed down but rarely spoken. Because we hoped it would never matter. Lira's mark burns brighter. The seer recites, her voice echoing strangely against the stone. When false mate meets true flame, the Alpha's line will either burn or rise eternal. Silence crashes down after the last word. Kael goes completely still. Not shocked. Calculating. Lira's breath turns shallow. False mate, she repeats, her voice barely steady. That's me. Her chest tightens painfully. See, she says, turning toward Kael, panic breaking through her control. I told you. I bring destruction. Your line will burn. Images flash in her mind, his pack reduced to ash, his territory shattered because she stepped into it. Because she lied. She steps back instinctively, as if distance alone could undo what the shrine has revealed. Kael moves faster. His hand comes up, gripping her chin, not rough, but firm enough to stop her retreat. His fingers are warm against her skin, grounding. Look at me, he says. She resists for half a second before lifting her eyes. His gaze is steady. Not fearful. Not accusing. If you were destruction, he says quietly, the earth would be trembling already. As if summoned by the words, a subtle vibration hums beneath their feet. Not violent. Not cracking stone. A pulse. The moonwell responds again, light rippling across its surface in widening circles. The ground is not breaking. It is answering. Lira feels it now, not chaos, but alignment. Like something long asleep stretching awake. The mark on her palm does not burn with rage. It burns with purpose. But purpose does not mean safety. Either burn, she whispers, swallowing hard. Or rise eternal. That's not a comfort. No, Kael agrees softly. It's a choice. His thumb shifts slightly against her jaw, not possessive. Anchoring. False mate meets true flame, he repeats under his breath, as if testing the words. His eyes flicker gold briefly. You claimed me to survive. Her throat tightens. And yet, he continues, voice lower now, something deeper threading through it, the bond answered. Her wolf stirs at that. Because she felt it. That faint, electric snap when he said mine. She had called it survival. But the shrine calls it something else. Her heart pounds harder. This is a mistake, she insists, but the conviction in her voice is cracking. Kael releases her chin slowly, but he does not step away. Mistakes don't wake ancient shrines, he says. The seer bows her head slightly. The prophecy never said she would destroy us, she adds carefully. Only that the Alpha's line would change. Change. Lira has been nothing but change her entire life. Unwanted. Feared. Forced. Now the possibility stretches before her again, but this time tied to him. To his pack. To a future that could either rise or burn. If destiny and forbidden bonds are your weakness, don't stand outside this story. Subscribe now to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Don't just watch from the shadows. Join the pack. Join the pack. The words are still echoing in the grove when the wind shifts. It carries a new scent. Not pine. Not stone. Not the quiet silver hum of the moonwell. Dominance. Aggressive. Sharp. Uninvited. Kael feels it first. His posture changes, subtle but immediate. Shoulders squaring. Chin lifting. His wolf pressing forward beneath his skin. Lira turns toward the tree line just as a group of wolves steps into the grove without permission. At their center stands another alpha. Taller than most. Broader. His dark hair pulled back tight from a face carved by old scars and older grudges. His eyes sweep the shrine, the glowing mark on Lira's palm, and finally settle on Kael. So it's true, the rival alpha says, his voice carrying easily across the stone. You've claimed her. He doesn't look at Lira like she's a woman. He looks at her like she's a blade. Kael does not move from her side. You entered my territory without request. And you awaken something that belongs to all of us, the rival snaps back. His gaze flickers to Lira's hand again. You think we didn't feel it? That pulse. That mark. The council wolves begin to gather at the edges of the grove, drawn by raised voices. The seer remains silent, but her expression tightens. She is not yours to weaponize, the rival alpha continues, stepping closer. Ashmore cast her out. You know why. Lira feels every eye turn to her again. Weapon. The word settles like chains. Kael's voice stays even. She sought protection. She sought power, the rival corrects sharply. And you handed it to her. Murmurs ripple through the pack council. She could be the fulfillment of the prophecy. Or the end of it. Salvation. Apocalypse. The words bounce between wolves who should stand united but now look divided. Lira's pulse quickens. She didn't come here to fracture another pack. She didn't come here to become a symbol. She came to survive the night. The rival alpha steps forward again, eyes locked on Kael. Hand her over. We will contain what she is before it spreads. Contain. Like a disease. Kael's jaw tightens. She stays. The rival's lips curve slightly. Then you are choosing her over your people. The accusation hangs heavy. Before Kael can answer, the ground beneath them shifts violently. Not the subtle hum from before. A crack. Sharp. The moonwell flashes blinding silver, then black. The air fractures with a sound like glass breaking. From the shadows beyond the shrine, shapes begin to crawl forward. Not wolves. Not human. Long limbs made of smoke and bone. Eyes hollow and glowing faintly blue. Their forms flicker, unstable, as if reality itself resists them. The scent hits next. Rot. Cold. Void. They followed the mark, the seer breathes. The creatures move fast. One lunges straight for the nearest wolf, a young boy barely past his first shift. Lira doesn't think. She steps forward, but Kael is faster. He shifts mid-stride. Bones snap and reform with brutal efficiency. Fur bursts through skin. His wolf lands between the child and the shadow creature with a roar that shakes the stone. He tears into it without hesitation. Claws pass through shadow and connect with something solid beneath. The creature shrieks, a sound that scrapes across the mind more than the ears. The grove erupts into chaos. Wolves shift around them. The rival Alpha joins the fight without comment. Council members scatter, pulling the youngest to safety. Lira stands frozen for half a second. She feels them. The shadows. They are not random. They are drawn to her. To the heat in her palm. No, she whispers, clenching her fist, trying to smother the silver glow. If she dims, maybe they'll retreat. Another creature lunges, this one slipping past Kael's defense. It reaches the child he shielded earlier, clawed hand closing around the boy's ankle. The boy screams. Something inside Lira snaps. Not in anger. In refusal. She will not be the reason another pack buries its young. Her control shatters. Silver fire erupts from her skin in a violent surge. It does not burn outward blindly this time. It strikes with purpose. Flame lashes across the grove in bright arcs, cutting through shadow like light through fog. The creatures recoil, shrieking as their forms unravel. One after another, they disintegrate into nothing. The child is released, dragged back by an older wolf. Kael's massive wolf turns toward her, eyes blazing, not in fear. In awe. But the power doesn't stop where she intends. The flame slams into the ancient stone of the shrine. Cracks spiderweb through one of the rune-etched pillars. A section collapses with a thunderous crash, fragments scattering across the grove. The fire dies as quickly as it came. Smoke curls into the cold air. Silence follows. Not relief. Shock. Lira stands at the center of the destruction, chest heaving, the mark on her palm glowing faintly before dimming. The shrine is damaged. Not destroyed. But wounded. The pack stares at her the way Ashmur once did. Fear. Whispers begin again, but sharper now. She brought them. She broke the shrine. This is exactly what the prophecy warned us about. Kael shifts back into human form slowly, stepping toward her. His body is marked with shallow cuts, but he doesn't seem to notice. Before he can speak, one of the elder council members steps forward, voice cold. Choose her, the elder says to Kael, and you lose us. The grove feels smaller suddenly. Lira's throat tightens. She never meant to make him choose. If you think love should be stronger than fear, then don't stand on the sidelines. Subscribe. Stand on her side. Stand on her side. But Lira has never expected anyone to. By the time the moon reaches its highest point, the grove has emptied. The broken pillar has been cleared away. The council has retreated into tense, divided discussion. And Lira has made her decision. She will not be the fracture that splits another pack in two. Before dawn, she wraps her injured thigh tighter with torn fabric and walks alone through the quiet territory. No guards stop her. No one dares. The air feels different now, charged with caution. She follows the scent of salt and stone until the forest thins into a high cliff overlooking a dark stretch of river below. The water reflects the moon in trembling silver lines. She stands at the edge, wind pulling at her hair, and breathes. Leaving is familiar. Leaving is safer. Her wolf does not agree. It paces restlessly beneath her skin, agitated in a way that has nothing to do with fear. Footsteps approach behind her. She doesn't turn. I wondered how long you'd wait before running, Kael says quietly. His voice is closer than she expected. I'm not running, she replies, staring at the river below. I'm removing the problem. The problem, he repeats. Me? Silence stretches between them, but it is not cold. It is heavy with everything unsaid. He steps beside her at the cliff's edge. Close enough that their shoulders almost touch, but not quite. The space between them feels deliberate. The council will push again, she continues. They won't stop. Every shadow that crosses your border will be blamed on me. They were already divided, he says. You simply gave them something visible to argue about. She lets out a short, humorless breath. You make it sound simple. It isn't. The honesty in his tone makes her glance at him. Moonlight sharpens his features. The scar over his brow casts a thin shadow across one eye. He looks less like a carved statue of war here, and more like a man carrying too much. I had a mate once, he says suddenly. The words land without warning. Lira goes still. She died protecting me, he continues, his gaze fixed on the river. A border dispute that escalated. I underestimated our enemy. She paid for it. There is no dramatics in his voice. No performance. Just memory. I swore I would never bond again, he says. Never give anyone that kind of leverage over me. Over this pack. The wind shifts, carrying his scent toward her again. Smoke and iron, but tonight there is something else beneath it. Grief? You think I don't see what this is, he asks quietly. A prophecy tying my line to a woman the world fears. Lira's chest tightens. You deserve stability, she says. Not this. She gestures vaguely between them. He turns then, fully facing her. And what exactly is this, he asks. Her breath falters. Because the answer is not simple. She swallows. I lied. Yes. But when I touched you, her voice drops. Vulnerable. It didn't feel like a lie. The admission hangs fragile in the air. She forces herself to continue. When you said mine, something answered inside me. Not fear. Not strategy. Something else. Her wolf stirs again at the memory. Kael steps closer. Close enough now that she can feel the heat radiating from him despite the cold wind. You think I didn't feel it, he asks. His hand lifts slowly, deliberately, giving her time to pull away. She doesn't. His thumb brushes her lower lip. Not claiming. Testing. The contact is light, but her entire body reacts like a spark has jumped between them. I didn't pretend, he murmurs. Her breath stutters in her chest. The world narrows to the space between them. You feel it too, he says, not as a question. She does. It pulses faintly now, low and steady beneath the surface. Not the violent snap of a completed bond. Not the overwhelming flood she has heard other wolves describe. Incomplete. But present. Like a door half open. If I stay, she whispers, you risk your pack. If you leave, he counters, you face the shadows alone. His hand drops from her mouth, but his fingers trail briefly along her jaw before falling to his side. I am not afraid of your fire, Lira, he says softly. I am afraid of what happens if you face it without me. The words settle deep. No one has ever positioned themselves beside her power instead of against it. She searches his face for hesitation. She finds none. Only resolve. And something warmer. They lean toward each other without meaning to. Breath mingling. Foreheads nearly touching. The kiss hovers there, close enough to taste, not yet taken. Her heart pounds so loudly she is certain he can hear it. But neither of them crosses the final inch. Because crossing it would mean choosing. And choosing means consequences. The bond pulses again between them. Waiting. If you felt that almost kiss, if you felt that choice hanging in the air. Subscribe. Don't be a silent watcher. Join Moonbound Werewolf romance stories and feel every heartbeat with us. The bond pulses again. And this time, it does not stay quiet. By sunrise, the entire territory feels the shift. Lira stands beside Kael in the central clearing, the cliff behind them now only a memory. The council has gathered. The rival Alpha waits at the edge like a shadow that refuses to leave. The seer steps forward, her expression no longer cautious. It is certain. I was wrong to withhold it, she says, her voice carrying across the crowd. The moment she claimed him before witnesses, the rite began. Murmurs ripple outward. Lira's stomach tightens. The bond activated, the seer continues. Not fully. But enough. The words mine spoken before the pack sealed the first thread. Lira feels every gaze swing toward her again. It wasn't fake, the seer says quietly. It began the mating rite. Silence. Kael does not look surprised. But he does look conflicted. The rival Alpha steps forward immediately, seizing the moment. Exactly, he says sharply. The prophecy said false mate meets true flame. We are watching it unfold. He turns to the gathered wolves. And what did the prophecy promise? That the Alpha's line will burn. It said either burn or rise, someone argues weakly. And are you willing to gamble your bloodline on either? The rival snaps back. The fear returns to the clearing like smoke. Lira's pulse pounds in her ears. She never asked for this. Never wanted to be tied to prophecy or legacy. She wanted a night of protection. That is all. She brought shadows to our shrine, the rival continues. She cracked sacred stone. You felt the ground shake. This is only the beginning. He looks directly at Kael now. You are blinded by instinct. Kael's jaw tightens. Be careful. Be realistic, the rival counters. If the bond completes, her power anchors to your line. If the prophecy leans toward destruction, it is your heirs who pay. The word heirs lands like a blade. The council begins to speak over one another. She saved the child. She shattered the shrine. She didn't control it. She didn't have to. Fear is louder than reason. Lira turns to Kael. He meets her eyes. And in that moment, she needs him to choose. Not as Alpha. As him. The elder who warned him before steps forward again, voice cold and final. We vote. The word echoes heavier than any growl. One by one, hands rise. Not all, but enough. To prevent imagined destruction, the elder declares, we sever the bond before it strengthens. Lira's chest tightens painfully. Sever, she whispers. The rival answers smoothly. At the moonwell. Before the next moonrise. Her power is tied to it. We break the thread there. Break? The word feels violent. Kael steps forward. You will not touch her. But the council does not back down. If you stand in the way, the elder says carefully, you stand against your own pack. The line is drawn. Kael's wolf presses against his skin, furious. But he hesitates. Just 1 second. Just long enough for doubt to flicker in his eyes. Just long enough for the council to see that he is weighing more than her. Lira feels it. The fracture. Her heart does not shatter loudly. It cracks quietly. Of course he hesitates. He is Alpha. She is Risk. She straightens slowly. I won't beg, she says. Her voice is steady. That surprises even her. The rival wastes no time. Silver chains are brought forward, etched with runes designed to suppress supernatural energy. Kael growls low, but he does not strike. Not yet. Lira holds his gaze as the chains wrap around her wrists. The metal burns instantly. She inhales sharply, but does not cry out. If this is what it takes to calm your fear, she says to the council, then do it. The Moonwell Grove fills again. The broken pillar remains cracked at the edge, a reminder of what they fear. They force her to her knees at the basin's edge. Silver bites into her skin. Her mark flickers weakly beneath it. The seer stands back, conflicted. The rival steps forward, hands lifted toward the water. We sever what never should have begun, he intones. Kael steps closer despite the council's warning. His face is carved from restraint. Lira, he says softly. She does not look at him. If she does, she might break. The water begins to glow. The chains tighten. Pain spreads through her veins, not just physical but deeper, like something trying to tear the thin thread between her and Kael. Her wolf, who has been quiet since the cliff, rises. Not frantic. Not afraid. Ancient. It unfurls inside her like something waking from centuries of sleep. The silver chains tremble. The rival's voice grows louder, trying to push through the surge. Burn the thread, he commands. But the thread does not burn. It ignites. White light explodes from her eyes. Not gold. Not silver. White. Pure. The chains snap with a violent crack, shards scattering across stone. The moonwell erupts in blinding radiance. Lira rises to her feet without touching the ground. Her hair lifts as if caught in unseen wind. The mark on her palm spreads, branching across her skin in glowing constellations. The wolves stagger back. Even Kael takes a half step, not in fear, but in awe. When she speaks, her voice carries two tones at once, hers and something older. I am not your sacrifice. The ground shakes. Not in destruction. In recognition. Her eyes blaze like twin stars. And for the first time, the pack does not see a monster. They see power they cannot chain. If betrayal makes you burn, subscribe. Because this is where girls stop surviving and start becoming legends. Legend. The word still trembles in the air when Lira rises higher above the moonwell. Not thrown upward. Lifted. The light beneath her feet becomes a solid thing, holding her suspended over the basin. The broken stone around the shrine hums like it has been waiting centuries for this exact moment. The mark on her palm no longer glows in a single crescent. It spreads, branching across her wrist, climbing her arms, mapping her skin in lines of silver flame that resemble constellations stitched into flesh. The wolves shield their eyes. Some bow instinctively. Others stare, breathless. And through it all, voices begin to echo. Not from the council. Not from the rival. From the earth. Layered whispers roll through the grove, ancient, steady, familiar in a way that makes her chest ache. Daughter of fire. Bearer of balance. Not destroyer. Keeper. The words settle into her bones. For the first time in her life, her power does not feel wild. It feels guided. Below her, the rival Alpha recovers first. His fear sharpens into something uglier. Triumph. You see, he calls out to the pack. She was always meant to awaken it. His eyes gleam as he steps closer to the basin. Did you think the shadows came by accident? The grove goes still again. Lira's gaze drops to him slowly. He smiles. I've been feeding the breach at your borders for months, he says openly now. Small tears. Small sacrifices. Enough to weaken the veil. Gasps ripple outward. I needed something powerful enough to rip it wide, he continues. And Ashmore's little exile was perfect. Rage flickers across Kael's face. You endangered every pack, Kael growls. I forced evolution, the rival counters. The prophecy required ignition. I simply struck the match. Lira feels it then. The breach beneath the shrine. Not fully sealed when she destroyed the shadows earlier. It yawns below the moonwell like a wound. The rival raises his hands toward her. Finish it, he urges. Burn bright enough and the old world collapses. We build something stronger. He wants destruction. Not purification. Not balance. Chaos he can control. Lira's power surges in answer, but it does not lash out. It waits. Kael steps forward into the center of the grove. Then he does something no Alpha in living memory has done. He kneels. Not before the council. Not before the shrine. Before her. The entire pack inhales sharply. He lowers his head, not in submission. In choice. Choose me, he says, his voice steady despite the power shaking the air around them. Not as your protector. Not as your Alpha. He lifts his gaze to meet hers. As your equal. The word slices through the tension cleaner than any blade. He does not demand control. He does not demand surrender. He offers partnership. The bond between them flares in response, no longer faint. Hungry. Waiting. Lira looks at the pack, the fear, the doubt, the fragile hope. She looks at the rival, ambition twisting his features. She looks at Kael, kneeling not because he must, but because he chooses to stand beside her power instead of over it. The fire inside her shifts. It stops climbing outward. It turns downward. Into the earth. Her body lowers slightly as the silver flame pours from her skin, not wild arcs this time, but focused streams that drive straight into the cracked stone of the moonwell. The breach screams. Not like the shadows did. Deeper. Older. The ground trembles violently, but not in collapse, in sealing. Silver light threads through the cracks, stitching them shut. The broken pillar glows and begins to fuse back together, rune by rune, as if time itself is bending around her will. The rival shouts in fury, as the dark energy he cultivated shrivels beneath the blaze. You're wasting it, he roars. No, she says, her voice layered again with ancient resonance. I am finishing it. The last thread of shadow snaps. The grove falls still. No more tremors. No more rot in the air. Only clean, steady silence. The light recedes from her skin slowly, leaving the constellations faint but permanent. The seer steps forward, tears shining in her clouded eyes. The prophecy was incomplete, she whispers. Her voice carries gently now, no fear. False claim births true bond. The flame does not destroy. It purifies. Understanding dawns across the pack like sunrise. The Alpha's line will not burn. It will rise, cleansed of the weakness that allowed corruption to grow. Lira descends the final inches to the stone. Her feet touch ground softly. Kael rises to meet her at the same moment. No counsel. No rival. No ritual binding them now. Only choice. He steps close, lifting his hand slowly to her face. She doesn't pull away. He presses his forehead to hers. The contact is simple. Intimate. And when their skin meets, the bond snaps fully into place. Not violent. Not overwhelming. Complete. Heat floods through both of them, steady and deep. Not a wildfire. A hearth. The pack feels it. They bow, not in fear this time. In recognition. No pretending. No survival instinct. No manipulation. Just truth. If you believe in fierce heroines and alphas who kneel for the right woman, subscribe to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Because we don't tell weak love stories here. We tell the kind that change kingdoms. Dawn does not arrive gently. It bleeds over the mountains in streaks of pale gold, washing the grove in a fragile kind of peace that feels almost undeserved after the night's violence. The moonwell stands whole again. Fresh stone seals the fracture, its surface smooth, but veined faintly with silver where her power stitched it closed. Wolves move quietly around it now, clearing debris, lifting shattered wood, speaking in low, uncertain tones. Rebuilding begins before grief can settle. Some of them look at her as they pass. Not openly. From the corner of their eyes. There is or there. And something sharper. Fear does not vanish just because danger has. It lingers in memory. A few bow their heads when she meets their gaze. A few cannot hold eye contact at all. One young wolf stares at her like she is something carved from legend rather than flesh. Lira feels the weight of every look. Worship is not lighter than suspicion. It is simply quieter. She stands at the edge of the grove where the trees thin toward the cliffside, the morning wind tangling in her dark hair. The constellations beneath her skin glow faintly in daylight, subtle now, but undeniable. Permanent. Kael approaches without ceremony. No guards. No distance. He dismisses the council with a glance before stepping beside her. For a moment, neither of them speaks. Below the cliff, the river cuts silver through the valley. Smoke rises from the distant dens where families repair damage and count blessings. He does not touch her yet. He waits. She exhales slowly. Some of them will never trust me, she says, not bitter, only honest. They will, he replies. She shakes her head faintly. No. Some won't. She turns to him then, her eyes searching his face not for reassurance, but for truth. Would you have chosen me, if I hadn't burned? The question is quiet. It does not accuse. It does not tremble. It cuts deeper because it doesn't beg. Would he have seen her without the spectacle of power? Without prophecy unraveling at her feet? Without the grove bending to her will? Kael studies her, as if the dawn itself waits on his answer. I chose you before the fire, he says. No hesitation. No poetic flourish. He lifts his hand, brushing his thumb gently over the faint silver tracing her collarbone. His touch is reverent, but not because of the power. Because of her. I chose you when you lied to survive, he continues softly. When you stood alone against my counsel. When you looked at me like you were daring me to see past my own pride. His jaw tightens slightly. I hesitated last night, he admits. Not because I doubted you. Because I feared losing another mate to something I couldn't protect. The word mate settles differently now. Not heavy with expectation. Solid. I will not hesitate again, he finishes. Her throat tightens, not from weakness, but from the unfamiliar sensation of being seen without condition. The wind lifts around them, gentler now. Below, a group of wolves begin resetting boundary markers. A few glance up toward the cliff, watching their alpha and the woman who nearly became their sacrifice. The tension between reverence and doubt still hums through the pack like a low current. Lira watches them too. They are rebuilding, she murmurs. But they are rebuilding around me. Not with me. Kael steps closer this time. Then we change that, he says simply. Not force. Not command. Change. He slides his hand into hers. The bond pulses steady, grounded, no longer a wildfire seeking fuel. It feels like a heartbeat shared between two bodies. The rival Alpha has been taken into custody. The shadow breach is sealed. But peace is not an ending. It is a beginning that demands effort. She squeezes his hand once. I won't shrink for them, she says. I don't want you to. Her gaze drifts back to the valley. Would they have called her curse if she had broken beneath their fear instead of rising through it? Would they have chained her name to destruction if she had accepted their narrative? Or would they have recognized courage if it had arrived without flame? The grove carries whispers already. Some say she was chosen by ancestors. Some say she is a warning. Legends begin in uncertainty. They are shaped by who survives to tell them. She turns fully toward Kael now, stepping closer until there is no space left between them. The constellations under her skin flicker once, faint in the morning light. Not a threat. A reminder. I won't be your symbol, she tells him. You're not, he answers. You're my equal. The word no longer feels fragile between them. It feels earned. Below the cliff, a child shifts into wolf form clumsily for the first time, stumbling before righting himself. Laughter breaks through the valley air. Life continues. Not because fear vanished. Because it was faced. Would you have called her curse? Or courage? Would you have feared her? Or loved her? The grove stands quiet in the rising sun, balanced between myth and reality, between what was nearly lost and what has just begun. If this story ignited something in you, subscribe to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Because here, we don't whisper love stories. We howl them. Even as the grove basks in the fragile glow of morning, the air carries an undertone of unrest. Beneath the celebration, beneath the first tentative laughter of wolves reclaiming their territory, something unseen stirs. Deep underground, beneath stone roots and twisted earth, the remnants of the shadow breach pulse faintly. Not weak. Not dying. Persistent. Like a heartbeat beneath layers of stone and fear. The fissures that had been sealed by Lira's silver flame glow subtly, veins of dark energy twisting in defiance. And then, a spark. Small, sudden, almost imperceptible at first, but it spreads with purpose. A second mark ignites, this one not hers. Different. Darker. Yet luminous in its own violent rhythm, a mirror to the constellations still faintly etched upon her skin. A voice resonates in the deep, not human, yet human enough to send chills curling down spines. Strong. Commanding. She is not the only flame. The echo reverberates through the tunnels, through stone, through earth, and it settles like smoke in the minds of those who would have thought the world safe. Above ground, Kael senses the shift before anyone else. His jaw tightens, eyes narrowing, a muscle in his neck taut. The bond with Lira quivers, not in fear, but in recognition. Something ancient stirs. Something that challenges even their bond. Lira, unaware above, stretches her hands skyward, constellations fading, yet the warmth beneath her skin whispers of another presence, one she has yet to meet, one she has yet to understand. Her wolf stirs restlessly, nostrils flaring at a scent she cannot fully trace. Danger, yes. But also challenge. Recognition. A spark meant to test fire against fire. The rival Alpha is no longer a concern. He was mortal, flawed, predictable. This is something else. Something older. Something patient. Waiting for the right moment to claim its place in the story. The camera of the mind's eye drifts downward, through soil, rock, roots, into the shadows beneath the shrine. The second mark pulses brighter now, intricate in its own design, a symbol older than any pack's memory. A power equal to hers, yet shrouded in secrecy. The earth trembles slightly, as though acknowledging its birth. And then, the voice again, closer now, sharper, full of authority. The true Alpha hasn't risen, yet. The words slice through silence like a blade, leaving the grove above unconsciously tensed, as if the world itself had just inhaled. No one sees it. No one knows it yet. But the prophecy was never finished. The story was never complete. Above, Kael turns slowly, sensing a shift in the wind, a tremor in the earth beneath his feet. His golden eyes sweep the horizon. Wolves pause in mid-motion, ears twitching, muscles tight. Even the moonwell seems to hold its breath. Lira feels it then. A pull. A tug at the very bond that now connects her to Kael. Something calls across miles of stone, a thread reaching out to her that is neither friend nor enemy, yet undeniably alive. She steps toward the edge of the grove instinctively, gaze lifted, body tense. Her wolf growls low in her chest, a warning, a question, a premonition. The sky over the mountains shivers with the first hints of storm clouds, subtle and restless, as if nature itself senses the arrival of the next challenge. The screen of imagination narrows to the sealed underground fissure again. Shadows coil around the new mark, alive, waiting. The echo of the voice fades into silence, but its presence lingers. Heavy. Certain. Impossible to ignore. The final thought whispers through the minds of all who dare imagine the future. The story is far from over. The fire that burned so brightly above is only the beginning. A second flame has awakened, patient and relentless. And the world will never be the same. Cut to black. The words linger in the void. The true Alpha hasn't risen. Yet,